Okay, welcome back to another screencast. I'm going to be working on combat training in this one. And yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, you can access this early on just Django.com and you can support the channel that way. Either way, let's get into this. So this is where I left off the last time. Basically, this was a rough architecture of what we're going for this application. And what I want to do now is as much as possible of these first three things here, which is selecting the repository, storing the repository in some way, or basically the files in MinIO. And one of the interesting things is that this vector DB that we're using, which is Milvis, I can actually put that here. They use MinIO as well. So it might make sense to actually just use the MinIO container provided by them instead of just duplicating the services. I don't think that's necessary. So we'll see how that goes. And yeah, so I haven't really prepped anything. The only thing that I was just looking for now is a library that can do Git operations. And I found two. One is this node Git, which is looks cool, but unfortunately is a little bit, well, probably outdated. It's just not supported anymore. The last change was in 2019. So this is not an option. There is this other package, which is simple Git. And yeah, you can see it's pretty active. Last published 25 days ago. So I'm probably going to go with this. I've never used this before, so we'll see how far we get. But basically, the first thing that I need to do is I need to clone the repository. So, clone a repository, a remote repo at the path to a local directory, local path, which is pretty much, that's all I want to do. And the only concern here is, and I'll just add this in here as well, is the idea that, what about private? I'll increase that size. Sort of like, what about private repos? And the reason this is not like a huge concern, but just something to think about is that I need to have credentials to access the repository. But if it's a private, public repository, then I can use just my own credentials, or we'll see if I don't think you'll be able to download it without any GitHub credentials, because at least we're going off of GitHub, but we'll see. I'm not actually 100% sure. So what I'm basically going to do to handle this question is I'm going to just assume that we're not working with private repositories. So it's only public repositories at the moment. And if you were running this yourself, then technically you wouldn't have this issue because you could pull your own private repositories and then because it's everything that you have access to. So I think the idea is that this can be run by anyone. So if you can spin up your own instance of this whole application, then you can pull the repositories that you have access to. So that's one thing. So basically, we're just going to add a form that you can put in the path to, or the URL to the GitHub repository, and then we just send a request to the backend to call this CLI or this GitHub, this Git package to clone the repository and see what we get from that. And then we can worry about connecting to MinIO and doing all that sort of storing and all of that. So let's get to the first step. So I'm just going to open up, and you can see I had just select a repository. That's what we're going to do now. So basically, we have run dev, and then run trigger, which should be a command here. All right, so that looks fine. Looks like I need to install. Okay, let's go with that. Okay, so that's just busy configuring all of that stuff. And we can open this up in another tab. All right, so this is what we had. We're obviously going to clean this out. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that shadcn package or kind of library here. And I'm just going to go with an existing sort of one of these pre-built things like this dashboard or something. Probably forms is actually just the easiest to go with because I don't need something super detailed for the moment. And yeah, so let's just see here. Yeah, this should be fine. So I think this might be for, is this on the app router? Yeah, so it might be a little bit different because it's got, if I understand it correctly, this is all for the new app router, whereas what we've got at the moment is we're using a slightly older version that's not using the app router, so we're still using the pages. And I actually prefer it like that for the moment. I'm not 100% sold on the app router yet. So this is fine. I'm just not going to take the layout. And then the page is where we can just grab everything from. So I'm just going to do this part now. And go over to index. And then I'm just going to clean out basically everything. So something like this. And we're going to remove quite a lot of things here. So auth showcase is gone. This is going to be combat training. Okay, so here we'll just say like add a repository, let's say. Sure, to add to your combat training, sounds good. Okay, so now we need to go and get all those components. So this is not components there. This is profile form, right? Yeah. Separator, I think actually comes from the components we have here. So I can just do this. Okay, so that's there. And then profile form, we need to go and create. Okay, so they use React hook form, which I like a lot because shadcn also comes with its own sort of components for forms. I actually need to see, is it here? So they've got it here, but did we get it as well? Probably, oh, we did. We did. So this is like, this saves a lot of time because you don't have to now go and link up your form library. So like React hook form or Formic, it's basically one of those two. And you don't have to go and hook it up to these components. So this is great. We don't have to do any of that. Let's go back here. And then I'm just going to select all of that. And then we can go over to create like a containers. All right, so let's do containers. And we'll do, let's say, trying to think of down the line what our database schema will be. So we'll probably have to come and rename a whole bunch of stuff so that everything is named accordingly, but this is probably fine. So this is going to be new repo, let's say, or add repo. And inside here, I'm just going to do form for now. Let's do it like that. Or let's do index, yeah. Okay, no use client. A lot of this stuff we're going to need to just manually import because the workspace shortcut is not actually the same in this case. So this will be a bunch of stuff like this. Yeah, okay. So form here. So this is the profile form. Then we get a type. We have default values, and then we have the actual component. So something that I also like to do is to kind of move this into some other files here. So we'll have like schemas, right? And then we need to just import Zod here. And then, okay, default values can go back. And then here you can export the type as well. So it's like this, and then we can import from the schemas. Let's see, we didn't. Yeah. And here I'm going to rename this already. So this will be repo schema, or add repo schema, probably better. Lots of things we don't need here, so this is just going to be the path, I think is the best. And let's see, this validation I'm not going to include for now. Okay, so add repo schema, and then we have add repo form values. So both of those are being exported. Just change all the types. Okay. Here we're going to have the default value of path is just going to be empty. And then we need to import the schema. So this is add repo schema. Okay, and let's see. Okay, we'll come back to that in a second. This is going to be path. Now here, I think we're just going to put the full URL. So this is going to be your public repository URL. Yeah, okay. And then the rest of these form fields we can remove for the time being. This is, what is this now? URLs. Okay, so this is like adding, yeah, okay. And then button we need to import as well. And then this we can just say save. Okay. Okay, so this is not being used anymore. And this is going to be on submit. So, okay, we'll need to just fix up anything over here. I can see I already have an ESLint issue here, which is one of these things about promises, which I'm not actually a fan of this rule. No misused promises, but okay. All right, so we have add repo. I need to give this a better name. This is not profile forms. This is going to be add repo form. Okay, and then we're going to go back into pages, index, add repo form. Okay. All right, that's all there. Let's go back to our application. Right, okay. So we have all of this showing here. We could probably, clean this up with some kind of the layout, which is actually here. Let's go see. So this is examples. This is children. I wonder if it's actually not still over here. Let's see, layout. Yeah, this is the parent layout. Okay, so copy all that. And let's just go into components. You can actually do containers. No, this is components, layout, TSX. export function, just make that a bit bigger, layout, and return all of this. Okay, separator is import from UI over here. Sidebar, nav, we do not have anywhere. I'm going to just comment that out for the time being. Children, and then this is an image, which I will actually maybe add soon. I'm going to comment it out for now. Okay, children, and this is a React node. Right, so we have the layout, and then we can just do this. Actually, I wonder here, we should probably do it over there. Let's go into app and then do layout. Okay. So let's go into our thing here. Okay, so it's a little bit better. We'll touch up on all the UI stuff over time, but we at least have this form here, so you can then go into your URL and then just submit the form. So this is fine. The next part of this, I'm just going to close all of that for now. The next part of this is, first we should install this package. So let's do that. Install that. And then run the server again. Okay, let's see. So we need to create on the server an API router that can handle basically accepting those parameters. So I'm just going to take the example router that's provided to us and then just change everything up here. So this will be repo, and then I'm just going to call this repo router, and it's going to come from repo router. So basically just renaming everything. All right, I need to rename this. So now that looks fine there. Let's see. I think I might need to restart, not that, ESLint here, because it is here. And right, so we're going to go and do create. This is going to be, for now, this is going to be public. I'll handle all the login and private stuff in a bit. So this is going to be public procedure. We need to have the repo URL, which is going to be a string. And this is going to be a mutation, not a query. So mutation. And usually here, then you would access the context, and then you would do something with Prisma to create the repository and actually store it. We could probably get to that in a second, but for now, all I want to do is just get the Git connection working. So we can just say return like status. Okay. All right. And then I'm going to leave these over here because we'll get to them in a second. So we have create. Okay, that's looking good. So now here in our on submit is then when we can just call the TRPC endpoint. So we can say, first we need to say API, we import that. We can say create repo equals to api.repo.create use mutation. And then here we'll do all of this stuff. So I'm going to say, first of all, let's make this an async function. And let's do await create repo. We need to not call it, it's going to be mutate async. I prefer to do it in this sort of way. And we need to pass in repo URL. This is going to be data.path. And then you can do kind of callbacks here. So like on error, you can then just do a toast of the error message, and you can say like variant is destructive. On settled, if you want to have like a loading state as well, you can do that. But I think we can actually do that using some state here from the form. Let's see, form. I wonder if we can do this. Let's see, form.form state is submitting. Okay, submitting, otherwise submit. Yeah. Let's see. So we have, this is just telling us what we submitted. So I'm going to remove that. Actually, cut this out here. On success. And then we just toast and we say repo created, even though it's not created. And then we can just say your repo has been added to combat training. Yeah. Okay. So what we can do is, for now, let's just say console.log so that we get everything here, and then we'll see that printed out over here. So let's just put like, yeah, example.com, submit. I think also because everything's white, we're not going to see much there, but here it is, create repo, https example.com. And yeah, actually on those toasts, let me just see here, toaster, there's this toaster provider, but this is not actually being used anywhere. Yeah, and if I remember, I'm just going to open this up here because you, to install the toaster, yeah, you need to add this to your app layout or whatever. So let's just go back here. All right, so this is going to go here. Toaster, import from components, and yeah, okay. Okay, and so we did see it, it logged out here, create repo, and then there's the URL. So that's cool. Next, I'm going to make a service that will wrap around all of the Git stuff here. So we've already installed the package, and then you can see like usage over here. Did I not have another clone? Yeah, here it is. Okay, git clone. So yeah, it's probably just .clone. We'll see what it gives us. It's TypeScript. And they have callbacks, and it's a wait. You know, you can use promises. So this is cool. So we'll make a service. Let's close some of this. Yeah. Okay. So inside the server, I'm gonna make services, and then put like get.ts, and then here I'll do something like you know, like get service. And it's just going to have some functions here, so we can do like create, or let's do clone repo, takes in repo URL, and then here we'll do the what we just saw now. So this is going to be simple get, and they import this, so like that. Okay. All right, so simple get here. We can do await simple get dot. Let's see, what do we need to do here? Oh, we probably need to, okay, initialize it. Dot clone, okay, pass in the repo path. So this will be repo path, repository URL to clone example, something like that. Okay, nice documentation there. Local path is the local folder path to clone to. So let's do that. Okay, repo URL. And then we need to, yeah, so it's like recommending the TMP, so like temporary folder. we need to have somewhere that it's going to store all this stuff. And it's also going to be, well, it's going to be temporary, obviously, because we're not going to store these files on the server. The idea is to store them in MinIO, right? So it's going to temporarily be stored over here. What do we get as a result from this? We just get a response of something. So let's just do this. Okay, what is the response? String. Probably like a status or something. Okay. Let's console log that as well. TMP, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this inside downloads for now. Let's just prep this, get this folder here. I'll do downloads, combat training. Yeah, it should be fine. So like this. Okay. So that'll clone the repository. That's the first thing we want to do. We just want to do that. So now with this get service is being exported, so you can use this over here. And the point is so that this is wrapped up inside its own server, so you can test this, you can mock this, right? Because this is not something that you probably want to do in a testing environment. You just want to check that, for example, this function was called. You don't want to actually do this in a test environment. And this is just generally nice and contained, so you know where everything is related to one thing. So here we can then do get service, right, await dot clone repo, like that. And we can say something like this. And we need to make this async. Okay. All right. So we can head on over back to the browser and try this. So I need a GitHub. Let's do one of my repositories here. So if I go to GitHub, and then we can go to my repositories. Let's do the Zig LLM. It's a pretty simple one. So I need this URL here, okay, because I need the git. I need this .git on the end because that tells you that it's a git URL, and then it can clone it from there. So let's do submit, and the repo is created. Let's go here. Let's see. I don't think I logged anything. Let me just double check here. Console repo create. So message was an empty string. Interesting. And nothing on that side either. Nothing in the folder. All right, so this is combat training, like temporary folder. So let's head on back, see what's happened here. What I'm going to do is actually move it into a trigger task, because this was never supposed to be in an endpoint anyway. So to do that, what I'm going to do is first close that. So we have this jobs here, and we have the example job. And I'm going to just like create another one here, and we'll call it, let's call it repos or something. So we're going to define a job here. This is going to be the clone repo job. Okay, version. This is triggered by an event. So here the event name would be like repo.create, let's say. And then here we can do a bunch of stuff like logging out, what is going to happen. So we can say like cloning repo, and you can see it's suggesting that we're going to have a payload with repo URL. This is quite useful because the payload is going to contain information that we use or that we pass into this task. So we can import the service here. So this is get service, and let's just fix this up here. So we're going to do await get service clone payload URL. Okay. Now there is a way to I believe I've seen a way that you can add some types to the payload. I might be thinking of something else, but we could do like payload data equals to payload as, and then over here we can say repo URL is a string. All right, so then you can just do payload data.repo URL, and then we can get the response from this. Say, just log the response basically. Okay, so let's check in on this trigger.dev here. You can see it's being refreshed. But if I'm not mistaken, because we've created a new one, I'm going to need to restart trigger so that it can detect this new job. Actually, I also need to import it here. So like that. Yeah. So let me do this again. Looks like my server had a crash there. So I'm going to restart everything. Okay, that seems fine. Okay, I'm going to open up the trigger documentation here. So let's go to docs, triggers, events. Okay. Yeah, so here this is how you can send an event, and we're using an event to trigger this job. So the name is repo.create. So we have to trigger that event name and then pass in the payload data that has repo URL in it. So basically here in the endpoint, all right, instead of calling the get service, okay, we'll say client, and client needs to come from trigger. All right, I would imagine. Let's just see. It doesn't seem like it's described there, but this is the client, okay, that's defined here for trigger. So we are going to do repo.created, and then the payload needs to have repo URL, which is like that. And then I'm just going to return the status like this. Okay. All right, so that will trigger that. Now let's just go back to here. I'm going to log in. Okay, so what I want to show you here is that this clone repo job has been added. So you can see it here. We haven't run it yet, but it's at least tells us that it is recognized here. So we can see all different things about it, settings. Let's see, we can test it out even, which is pretty cool. So when we run this now, we'll come back here to see that it's actually doing its job. So let's see. I need this. Submit. Okay, so that at least shows up here. Let's come back here and see runs. I gave it the incorrect name. I said repo.created when it should have been repo.create. Okay, so nothing actually happened there. So let's try that again. Copy this, submit. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so failed job. Now we can see what's going on. Okay, so I'm back the next day after just taking a little break, and I realized that this actually was working. It was actually storing the files in this path, and I will show you exactly how. So, doing exactly what I did yesterday, submit this, it'll go off on trigger.dev, and I would go back to my folder and I would try and find in the downloads folder where this is, but there's nothing there. And it's because it created it inside our current working directory, which is yeah, so good to know. Even though I'm using this tilde symbol to get the shortcut for the downloads folder, it's actually doing everything in a relative folder, which is not how I thought that would happen. But yeah, so basically I've just changed that for the current working directory, and then I'm going to do something like a temporary folder, just marking it as temp so that it's very explicitly showing that it's a temporary folder, and then repos, and then the name. Right, so then I can delete that, and also I can add it to the git ignore. Right, so this is going to be temp. Okay. All right, so let's try this all again. Submit, come back here. Now you can see there's a TMP folder, repos, and then Zig LLM, which is a package that I was working on. So then there's all the files, right? So this cloning works. We have no issues with that. And we can kind of continue from that, which is, here we have this response that we get back from cloning, but I'm logging it, which is not allowed because it's not a string type. So all I want to do here is just say completed cloning the repo. And I wonder actually what I'm going to do here is I'm going to return an object with the path that it gets stored in. And this, I can just await like that. And I'm just cleaning it up a little bit. Okay, so I'm returning the path so that I can use the path for something. So mostly I'm just thinking about it in terms of that I need the path to where it's stored temporarily so that I can, first of all, know where to access it, and then I can store that path on something if I want to use it later on. So let's say to path, and we'll come back and try this one more time. All right, so this is obviously still going to be here. I actually think something interesting is whether or not it'll work if the folder path is repeated. Yeah, so here, like, already exists and is not an empty directory. So I'm going to have to take that into consideration as well, which I'm just going to do very lazily. So I'm just going to say, yeah, let's do create the repo and the path, try clone it, and if we have a catch like this, then yeah, so the way I think this should work is that it will try and clone on this path, but if it's already got something in it, then we're just going to be refreshing, or basically pulling the contents from the repo, and then either way we're going to return the path at the end there. So let's try that. Okay, so that one completed, and then we can see here completed cloning the repo to this path here, right? So that's good. At least this is passing, and our temp folder is pretty much the same there. Okay, so if we come back to our goals here, the first one was to basically select a repository and then download it. And the second step of this is to store all the files in MinIO. And so that's what I'm going to start with now. So MinIO has an npm package, and I'm going to make use of that. So I just want to run through the documentation so we can install this firstly. So I'm just going to stop this. Okay, so using with TypeScript, types is no longer needed, so it's built in. Okay, so here we need to create a MinIO client, which is going to point to our local one, and we have all of that configured in Milvus. Right, here's the MinIO container, and it's going to be running on port 9000 and 9001, and we should be able to ping it. At least this is the health check, so we should also be able to ping it on that URL. The credentials for this MinIO access key is that, and the secret key is that. So if we have the access key and secret key, the endpoint will just be localhost, so it should be pretty simple. Here they've got a file uploader example. So here it's like making a bucket in a region, metadata, and then fput object. Right, so this is using fput object API. Upload your file to the bucket Eurotrip. Okay, so creating the bucket is going to be the first thing, and I think it's going to be probably one bucket could hold, all of the projects. I think that should be fine. All right, so this is installed. Maybe I can just copy this. Okay, and we can also run the Docker stuff. So I'm going to run dev here, and then go into services and run all of this. So I'll do. Okay, so that'll run the MinIO service, and then I'm going to do very similar to how I did a service for, let's go back here, for Git. I'm going to do a MinIO service. Okay. And then here I don't think we need to do it like this. We can do a quick fix. Usually they give quick fixes for the import, but it looks like I'm just going to do this like this. Okay, it's probably like that then. Okay, MinIO.client, and all of these variables we're going to grab from the environment variables, which comes from this env.mjs. So this is going to be the access key, secret key, port, and endpoint that we need. So this is going to go here, and I wonder if we could do this as a URL, but for now I'm just going to do it, each of them as their own endpoints, their own values. So this will be like MinIO endpoint, which will be a string, MinIO port, access key, and secret key. And then we just add all of that here. So the endpoint, port, access key, secret key, that's all coming from the process.env. And then we were able to get those values from over here. So we have this, and then it's going to be localhost 9000. So that's fine. So I can just go into .env, and then here I'm going to do MinIO. And we just need all these values. Okay, so the endpoint is going to be localhost. I actually think it should probably be like that. Port 9000. And then this value is the same. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to export MinIO client there as well, and then let me just finish up the environment. Okay, so this is all there. Let's see if I come back to over here. Seems like it was fine, but I'm just going to refresh anyway for those environment variables. All right, and then here what I can do is import the environment, and it's going to be MinIO endpoint, port, access key, and secret key. And then let's just see here, this is not a number. Okay, so this has got to be a number. Which is 9000. Okay, so that's a number. Use SSL. Let's see, there's got to be node environment equal production. Yeah. All right. So that's basically the configuration. Now we need something that can help us just to put files into the bucket that we use for storing all these files. What I'm going to do is make a method to create the bucket first. And then, because we can see here, it's kind of hard coding this Europe trip as an example. So I'm just going to do like this. Okay. And so here I'm going to make a function which is going to be create bucket. Oh, this is not a function there. So it needs a bucket name. Okay, and then here, all right, so we have minio.makeBucket, which has a callback. And basically, yeah, let's see if we can run this async though. Yeah, so it returns a promise, so that's fine. So we need the bucket name, and we need the region, which I think I can do like this. That means I don't have to specify string. Okay, so US East 1 is just the default bucket region. Once you've got that, I guess we can just return that. Then we need to make a method that does the file uploading. So we can close or get rid of that. Then we need async upload file. And I'm just going to use Copilot's recommendations here. Metadata can be constant metadata. All right, so these are just example headers that are being added, so I don't think there's any real use in keeping those. And then it's using the fput object method to upload the file to the bucket. So here, bucket name, then you need the file path, right, so that you can read the file. All right, so this is going to be constant file equals to, well, this is technically file path. So we can just do it like that. File name is what it gets uploaded as on the file name here. Okay, and instead of doing this callback, right, then I want to return and await like that. Okay, all right. So just thinking about a couple things. When we upload this file, which let's see where this is done in the jobs, right? We're going to have the path to the the folder path or repository path, which is going to be this zig llm.git in this case. I'm wondering if we should tar everything up. Like, for example, you can see if I just come back here, you know, they were using a tar file. So we basically just compress everything and store the entire repository as one file in MinIO. But that's probably not going to be great if we ever want to just pull one single file out of MinIO, like for some reason. But for the moment, we're also not really storing, because if we store all the files individually in MinIO, we're going to need references to those files, or at least an index of all the files that were uploaded, so that we can store what files were uploaded. And this is so that later when you want to, let's say, prompt a specific file, you can then at least say, I want to prompt this build.zig file, for example, because you know that that file is in there, and maybe the UI can show you that that file's there, or just in some way we at least have a record and can show that that file exists. But if we upload everything as one tar file, then we're not going to be able to pull out specific files without downloading everything, unzipping it, and then getting that specific file. So that might not be the best. So what I'm going to do then for the time being is I'm going to upload all the files. I think that's going to be the best. So let's make a function here. Let's do it upload many files. Okay. Now we need bucket name, and then here this is going to be, let's just make a type. Well, so it's going to have a file name, a file path. I actually wonder if we need the file name part, because if we have the file path, we can just get the file name from that. So I guess this can just be strings, so file paths. Okay. And then here, once we have all of that, we need to loop through all those file paths. So we can just do a standard for loop. And I think we could do this in parallel as well. So let's do await promise.all. This is going to be something like this. So mapping through all the file paths. Okay, file name is going to be split on the slash and then getting dot. Yeah, so dot pop will get the last. If you split this on those slashes, then you're going to get zig llm.get in that case. But if you go, let's say on the next one, then you're going to get inside llm, you'll get openai.zig, you'll get ignore. I think that should be fine. But let's just console log the file name and see what happens. Okay, so where are we here? Okay, so promise.all takes in a list of promises that you want to await. So here I'm not awaiting inside. Yeah, let's see here. Await promise.all. This needs to not be async. This needs to be returned. And this could be, yeah, that could be undefined. Okay. All right. So this we could basically move into its own variable, but I'm just kind of doing it in one call because promise.all will basically do all of those uploads in parallel. Basically, we're waiting for all of them to complete instead of me looping through each one of them and then awaiting for that call. That would be synchronous, so they'd all go one after each other. Like this, we can just upload all files at once. And I think one thing we'd probably want to do here is, because these are going to be the file names or the file paths. Okay, so just thinking about this a little bit more, the problem with this is going to upload just the files, but we need the structure of this folder to remain the same. I basically want each folder to be uploaded, and then inside the folder it should maintain this folder structure. So I'm going to use some generated code here as an example of how this is going to work. Okay, so we have a function upload folder, I should call it. All right, so the source folder would in this case be the zig llm.get. Bucket name we have, prefix is just something that was added here. So I need to import the file system. Okay, so that would give me access to doing all sorts of things here. This path as well I need to import. So, and I think, let me do it like this as well. Okay, so we're reading all the files from the source folder. Then we go through all the files, get the full path URL, and basically this is checking if it's a directory. So if it is a directory, then it's doing a recursive upload, or calling itself recursively on that folder path. So again, takes the file path here, which is now the new, this is going to have to be this .upload folder. Takes in the new current file path, same bucket name, and then this is now the prefix, which is path.join on the current prefix and file. So basically just passing into this recursive function the previous folder path that we were in, so that way at least we get a relative full path URL when we upload the file. So if it's not a directory, then it's just a file, and then you're going to just upload as usual. I think the only difference here is that we need an object of metadata. So let me just copy this. All right, so instead of doing it like that, we pass in the metadata. And here, instead of actually doing like that, I think we might be able to just call self.upload file. Yeah, if I just did upload file, the only difference is this doesn't take in the metadata, but I think that's fine because we put it over there. All right, so console log that out. Otherwise, console log the error. And yeah, okay, this is a lot better. Unfortunately, this means that we're not able to asynchronously upload all the files in parallel, because now I'm reading through the entire directory and then recursively going over the files, which actually makes sense. So this upload many files, I'm going to keep it there, but I don't think we'll use it. We're going to use this upload folder method. Okay, so that's the MinIO service. Let's go back to the job repo. And here I need to say await MinIO service dot upload folder. Okay, so upload folder just returns a promise of void, so meaning nothing, which I guess is fine. So this won't even have a result. The second argument is the bucket name, which I'm wondering if I should just say repo bucket name. No, it's fine. Okay, bucket name here we'll say okay. Let's also move this below. So we're going to log that out, and then we're going to upload the folder to MinIO. Then we're going to say completed uploading repo to MinIO. Bucket there. Okay. All right. Let's see. Invalid environment variables. Did I do something? Okay. So for this to be a number, I actually have to coerce it into a number, because it's the environment variable from process.env is not actually a number, it's a string. So I'm coercing it into a number here, and now it works. Okay. Let's see. This probably need to rerun trigger there. Okay, cannot read properties of undefined. Okay, so I'm changing it to that. Just importing the client directly instead of a default import. Let's give this a try again. And that looks good. Okay. So the endpoint is backup. Let's go back over here. And let's go back to runs. We're going to need to do another one here. So let's go back to my repositories. Okay, let's just do, like, for example, mentors project. Submit that. Okay, so that's in progress. I'd imagine that might take a little bit longer because it's going to be uploading all these files. So let's check back in with that. Okay, so looks like everything was good. Took 6.4 seconds, didn't return anything. Now I need a way to actually check that the files are in MinIO. Okay, so I did find MinIO console, which is a UI for MinIO. Only thing is that this looks like it'll take a little bit of time to set up, just because you've got to build from source and do all these things. So I'm not going to go through that. I'm just going to have to make a method here that just like prints out all the files or something. So let's just do print files. And let's see what it gives us. Okay, so list objects, MinIO client. So what does this do? Let's go back to documentation here for a second. So we want to do, what's the difference between list objects and list objects v2? Okay, so something like this. So we do list objects, and we can just call it stream as well. So stream on data, just console log that. This does not need to be async. Okay, I'm just going to do it like this. Let's go do MinIO service.print files repos. Alright, so I'm basically just calling it there. Specified bucket does not exist. Okay. So one thing we didn't do was we did not create the bucket. Okay, so what I'm going to do it right here. Let's do MinIO service, create bucket repos, and this probably also means that the files were not uploaded in that first test. Your previous request to create the named bucket succeeded and you already own it. Okay. Okay, interesting. So that was already there. So bucket region was left undefined. So here I put this print files method inside the running task. And now we can see the files being printed. So all the files are being uploaded, which is pretty cool. The only thing I do not know about is if this is just uploading them straight into, it probably is. It's these are all inside the base repo. I need them to be inside their correct repo path. Alright. But that's fine. I'll get to that in the next one. So at least right now what we've been able to do is store the files in there. This I'm just going to need to get the console working here so that I can see the files, and that'll help a little bit more. And once I can see that they're in the right place and then just fix up the upload process, then I can come back to this third step of embedding the files. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.